Adam, unlike a lot of Donald Trump supporters and family, you have been there watching what's going on. Tell us what happened. We had really three very interesting pieces of testimony.
We did. And first and foremost, we had the end of David Pecker's testimony. Now, this has been week-long testimony that has set the course of this trial. And it's interesting to analyze why David Pecker is there to start the case, because it goes to the prosecution's broader theory that this was an election fraud. And it goes back to, in his testimony today, he spoke about the 2018 non-prosecution agreement that AMI, National Enquirer's corporate parent, signed with federal prosecutors. And that agreement didn't go far enough to actually admit the campaign finance violations, but David Pecker did today, and he did yesterday on the stand. He said, we agreed to that we committed campaign finance violation. He also said today, when asked directly by the prosecutor if that was his understanding back then, directly answered yes. And now we're on to other witnesses, the ones that you mentioned in the introduction, who are custodial witnesses. They are introducing the pieces of evidence that are just data points for the jury that will put the pieces of the puzzle together for them. The contact information for Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. Why is that on the Trump Organization database? That will come into play later. We're starting to see the custodial records behind this Byzantine way of funneling $130,000 in hush money to Stormy Daniels through a shell company and a lawyer. And we're getting into the weeds on that. And that's the jurors' last impression as they go to the weekend.
Faith, the issue with a story like this is that there's no question that it was very unusual how this $130,000 was handled, how these things happened. And some of that in itself is a violation of the way books have to be kept and records have to be kept. What's the challenge here for the prosecution, though? They'll probably be able to demonstrate that effectively, but ultimately having the jurors believe that this was, in fact, in furtherance of a different thing, and that was to conceal something from voters that might have made them make a different decision. How difficult is that?
Well, Allie, you put your finger right on it. As the week started, there were two dramatically competing visions in this case. The prosecution said this is a seminal crime. It's about tipping an election in 2016. It's about Donald Trump desperately wanting to hide his relationship with this porn star or with other untoward relationships that could have hurt him in the election. On the other hand, the defense put forward a very plausible explanation that this is a minor records-keeping violation. Ex-President Trump shouldn't have been indicted and shouldn't be tried while he's on the campaign trail for something like this. And most importantly, outright denied that former President Trump had his fingers on this at all. Made it clear that he wouldn't know what small ledger entries are on his books and records, for example. And so what happened with Mr. Pecker this week is he made a huge inroad in favor of the prosecution to show that ex-President Trump definitely wanted to alter this election, that these are important election crimes, that he didn't care about hiding this from his family, but he cared about winning the election. And so that really buttressed the prosecution's case. And now they'll go about the important, steady, less exciting work of linking up the transactions to show they actually occurred and that false records were on the books of Trump's company. Which
this office, by the way, is good at doing, because they do that in other places. But let's go back to this idea of David Pecker. The defense team, the Trump team, was trying to sort of make this come across as this is standard. This catch and kill idea is standard, happens to lots of people. And Pecker was sort of saying, no, but this was actually in furtherance of something more serious than that. This wasn't the typical, we catch a story, we kill it. There are probably a lot of reasons why you would take on a story, pay somebody for it, and kill it. But Pecker sort of said the unfinished part, and this was in furtherance of what Donald Trump was trying to achieve to keep this from the public.
Absolutely. And that came across on redirect examination. Now, what happened was the defense attorneys presented what one would call the Casablanca defense. There's gambling in this establishment. AMI does this over and over again, that they buy people's stories, their NDAs are not unusual. But then the prosecutor on redirect honed into the differences, that there has never, even though AMI has quashed stories of celebrities and even political figures in the past, they have never been the eyes and ears of a presidential campaign. They have never identified sources of scandal and worked to silence the accusers who are bringing about that scandal. They have never had an admitted campaign finance violation, which was said in no uncertain terms today and yesterday. So systematically, the prosecution on redirect confronted each and every defense that Trump's defense attorney had presented over the past day.